The fluorescent lights of the St. Francis Community Hall buzzed like a dying insect, casting a harsh glare over the half-moon of plastic chairs. Amara Adubansu tried to melt into her seat, tugging the sleeves of her black cardigan over her knuckles as if the fabric could shield her from the room's raw sorrow. On the laminate floor lay a scatter of tissues that bore mute witness to stories already told. "Welcome back, Amara," said Akojua, the grief group facilitator, a soft-spoken woman in Ankara prince who'd lost her husband to a hit-and-run. Her smile was gentle but determined, the kind that left no room to flee. Amara's throat tightened. "Thank you," she managed, though her voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. 3 years. 3 impossibly long years since Julius's body was consigned to the Gulf of Guinea after the speedboat he'd chartered capsized during a storm. 3 years of moving through life like a ghost, defined by the hyphen between fiancé and widow. Around her, people shared memories that glistened like exposed nerves. A father spoke of his teenage son, gone in an instant to an armed robber's bullet. A woman in her 60s wept over the sudden stroke that had stolen her sister. When it was Amara's turn, a hush descended. She felt the weight of their eyes. "My fiancé," she stopped. Fiancé. Present tense, as if Julius still occupied the here and now. She cleared her throat. Julius drowned 3 years ago. They never recovered his body. The words spilled out, brittle and jagged. She didn't mention how she still set a second place at dinner, or how she checked her phone every morning for a message that would never come. Afterward, people pressed her hands, murmured comfort, but their kindness stung. She slipped outside into the humid Accra night, air thick with the scent of fried plantain from a street vendor. Layla's red sedan idled by the curb. Her cousin was all sharp cheekbones and sharper intellect, a born truth-seeker who never trusted tidy endings. "Ready?" Layla asked. She pushed her braided ponytail over one shoulder, eyes searching Amara's face. "Let's go home," Amara whispered. They drove in near silence, radio muttering low-life gossip that didn't matter. At Amara's apartment, Layla saw her upstairs and lingered in the doorway. "You don't have to keep punishing yourself," she said softly. "It's not punishment. It's what's left." When the door clicked shut, Amara leaned against it, heart pounding. In the hall closet, behind boxes of unused wedding favors, sat a cedar chest Julius had given her on their first anniversary. She knelt, fingers trembling over the brass latch. Not tonight, she told herself. But grief had an appetite, and tonight it was starving. The lid creaked open. Inside lay photographs, a folded Kent scarf that still carried his cologne, and a battered shoebox sealed with tape she didn't remember applying. Scrawled across the top, "For my sunshine, if ever." Her breath caught. She slid the box onto the rug, blade of a letter opener slicing the tape. Dozens of envelopes spilled out like trapped birds finally set free, and the first thing she saw was a date. July 28, 2022, 2 months after Julius's accident. Her cry echoed through the apartment. Outside, the streetlights flickered, as if the universe itself had shuddered with her discovery. Dawn painted the sky peach when Amara finally dialed Layla. The envelopes lay all around her like snowdrifts, pages of Julius's looping handwriting, each salutation beginning "My dearest sunshine." In the center of the living room floor, one letter sat apart, the one bearing that impossible date. Layla answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. "Amara? Are you okay? You need to see this." Amara's whisper trembled. His letters, he was writing after the accident. Within 30 minutes Layla was at the door in sweatpants and urgency. Together they sorted the letters chronologically. The earliest were brimming with wedding plans and silly jokes, later ones turned worried, sentences scratched out, references to being watched, loose ends, and finally, "If anything happens, look for the blue notebook." Layla tapped the dated envelope. "This is impossible." The Coast Guard declared the wreck total. They said no survivors. Amara's eyes flashed. And we believed them. Layla snapped photos of the postmarks on her phone. "Where'd he mail these from?" Cape Coast. Tima. Takoradi, same port where the boat left. Maybe he survived, tried to reach me, but Amara's voice faltered. Why hide? Layla's brow furrowed. Let's compare dates to the official incident report. See if anything overlaps. She opened her laptop, fingers dancing. Look, accident recorded May 16, 2022. But this letter is July. And check this, see the envelope stamped Kia International Post, 14 months later. Amara's pulse thundered. Kia, Kotoka Airport. Layla met her gaze. He was traveling. A silence thick with possibility filled the room until Layla exhaled. You realize what this means. Either someone forged his handwriting with uncanny precision, or Julius is alive. Amara pressed a hand to her mouth. Delight warred with anger. I can't do this alone. You won't. Layla narrowed her eyes with familiar resolve. First, we need the full accident file, raw data, not the sanitized summary. And I know someone who can get it. Detective Mensah. Remember him? The retired CID officer who handled Nanaya's kidnapping case? Exactly. He owes me a favor. Layla clicked through contacts. Let me set up a meeting. Amara gathered the letters into a neat stack. As she slipped the July envelope on top, a single photograph fluttered free. She caught her breath. Julius in a safari jacket, sun in his eyes, standing outside a small airstrip beside a woman with close-cropped hair, Avery, cradling a newborn swaddled in powder blue. Layla's eyebrows arched. Who are they? I have no idea, but look. Amara pointed to the baby's hospital bracelet, blurred but legible enough to read Kai J. Layla smiled grimly. J for Julius? Looks like we have our first breadcrumb. Somewhere in Amara's chest, a spark flared, hope mingled with dread. She hadn't felt alive in years, but now every cell burned with a single need, find him. She lifted her cousin's hand. Let's pull the thread and see what unravels. For days later, under the swelter of a Saturday sun, Layla guided Amara through the imposing gates of a leafy compound in East Legon. Detective Kofi Mensah greeted them from a shaded veranda, leaning on a cane that couldn't quite tame his restless energy. In retirement he'd grown a salt and pepper beard and a healthy skepticism for open and shut cases. I hear you have a ghost to catch, he said, shepherding them into his study, a shrine of stacked files and meticulous chaos. Ceiling fans whirred overhead, stirring the scent of old paper and strong coffee. Layla spread copies of the letters across his mahogany desk. Officially, Julius Owusu-Boateng drowned. The coroner's office issued a presumption of death. But these dates? Mensah adjusted his spectacles. Handwriting's genuine, I'd wager. Ink formulations match the postal timestamps too. He flipped a letter over, tapped a smudged corner. But the big question, why would a man fake his death only to mail love notes? Maybe he didn't fake it, Amara protested. Maybe he had amnesia, washed ashore. Mensah raised a calming palm. Possible. But then why no public alert? No police record of an unidentified survival case. And if he feared for his life, contacting you was reckless, unless the threat faded later. He rummaged through a filing cabinet and produced the original maritime incident report. I fetched the sealed photographs. Brace yourself. He slid 3 grainy images forward, a capsized hull, debris, an oil slick. No bodies recovered, but there were traces of accelerant, gasoline, inside the fuel tank. Possible sabotage. Amara's stomach dropped. Someone blew up the boat? Or staged a convincing wreck, Mensah replied. He showed them a witness statement from a fisherman who claimed he saw 2 small speedboats rendezvous minutes before the explosion, an allegation later discredited as drunken rambling. Mensah arched an eyebrow. Discredited by a port authority now serving 10 years for bribery. Layla exhaled. So Julius might have planned an escape with help. Or someone planned it for him, Mensa said. Either way, your next step is finding motive. Was Julius in danger? Did he owe someone? Let's scour his financials, communications, and that blue notebook mentioned in the letters. Amara winced. If it exists, it would be in our attic. Julius kept all his drafts there. Then go fetch it, Mensa urged. Meanwhile, I'll run the postal logs, see which clerk processed those envelopes. Layla clasped his hand. Thank you, Uncle Kofi. As they left, Mensa called after them, one more thing, airports have cameras. If your fiancé's alive, our eyes will find him. Bring me that photo of the baby. Back at Amara's townhouse, the attic smelled of dust and cedar. Sunlight knifed through a cracked window, illuminating memories packed in cardboard coffins. They pried open boxes until Layla unearthed a leather-bound journal, half charred along the edges. The burned journal, Amara breathed. The title page bore Julius's signature and a single cryptic phrase, "Trust no one, Kweku knows." Pages were missing, others water-stained, but between scorched fragments they found lists of offshore wire transfers, coded initials, and one repeated entry, Kiev, September 17th. The very day Amara once flew back from a business trip, alone. Layla's eyes narrowed. He was at the airport the same day you were. A chill rippled over Amara's skin. And I never saw him. Layla rested a hand on her shoulder. Maybe you weren't meant to then. But next time, she said, voice turning flint-hard, we'll be ready. The next week unfurled in a blur of sick anticipation. Amara traveled to Kumasi for a client meeting, her first overnight trip since the letters surfaced. On her return, the turbulence of the short flight mirrored her nerves. She disembarked into Kotoka International Airport's bright concourse, the rumble of rolling suitcases echoing like distant thunder. Exiting Gate C, she paused at a cafe window to text Layla, landed safe, call you from baggage claim. As she typed, her gaze drifted and froze. There, 3 meters away, stood a tall man in a navy blazer, rocking an infant against his chest. His profile, strong jaw, faint scar on the temple, the way he shifted his weight, was Julius written in flesh and motion. Beside him, a petite woman with close-cropped coils pressed a kiss to his cheek. Julius, if it was Julius, smiled, eyes crinkling the same way that used to melt Amara's defenses. Her phone slipped from her fingers, clattering onto terrazzo. The man's head jerked up at the sound. Their eyes locked. Recognition flared, and panic. He tightened his hold on the baby, murmured to the woman, then pivoted toward the escalators. Julius! The name ripped from Amara's throat before she knew she'd spoken. Passers-by turned. The woman, Avery, looked bewildered. Julius vaulted down the escalator, moving with desperate haste. Amara bolted after him, heart battering her ribs. She barreled through a knot of tourists, apologies flying. Stop him, she shouted to security, pointing. That man, he's not who he says. But by the time a guard reacted, Julius had merged into the throng at immigration. Amara reached the balcony railing just in time to see him slip through a side door marked authorized personnel only. She spun to a startled guard. He kidnapped my fiancé, she lied, adrenaline scorching truth. Please, detain him. The guard frowned. Ma'am, calm down. Describe him. 6'2", navy blazer, infant carrier. Radio chatter. Officers fanned out, but minutes later reported null. The door led to an employee corridor with multiple exits onto the tarmac. Airport policy forbade civilians there. Julius and the woman had vanished into the labyrinth. Amara's knees buckled. She sank against a pillar, breaths ragged. A young airport nurse offered water. Maybe you mistook. I know his face, Amara rasped. She opened her photo app, hands shaking, and captured a zoomed shot she'd snapped in reflex, Julius's profile half-turned, baby's bracelet glinting. Blurry, but unmistakable. She forwarded it to Layla with one line, "He's alive. Help me find him." The reply came seconds later. "On my way. And I'm bringing Mensa." Security escorted Amara to a quiet office overlooking the runway. Sunrise bled crimson across the horizon as planes roared to life. Officer Bokai, a wiry man with kind eyes, reviewed CCTV footage on a bank of monitors while Amara, Layla, and Detective Mensa huddled behind him. "Here," Bokai said, rewinding. The screen showed Julius exiting Gate D, Avery at his side, infant strapped snugly. They moved with purpose, not tourists meandering but a unit on a timed mission. "Zoom the bracelet," Mensa ordered. Pixels bloomed, clarified, "KIJ," Mensa nodded. Same inscription. They boarded no commercial flight, that corridor leads to charter hangars. Bokai keyed radio frequencies. Charter desk reports a private flight filed this morning, destination classified, pilot listed as E. Gabe. Paid cash. Layla's brows knit. "Can we get a passenger manifest?" "Private charters often list initials," Mensa muttered. They could be halfway to Lagos by now. Amara touched the cold glass, watching a twin-prop taxi into dawn. "I had him," she whispered. "I was this close." Mensa's hand rested on her shoulder. "Close is good. It means he's real, and real men leave footprints." He turned to Bokai. "We'll need flight plan filings, fuel receipts, hangar surveillance." Bokai hesitated. "I can request clearance, but it'll take hours." "Do it," Mensa said. Meanwhile, he faced Amara. "Show me that burned journal." They spread the charred pages across a desk. Mensa, gloved, aligned fragments like a jigsaw. One page held coordinates. He pulled a magnifier. "These digits correspond to Ada Foa, a coastal town near the estuary." "That's where Avery's flower shop is registered," Layla recalled. "Bloom and Tide." Amara looked up, fresh fire in her eyes. "Then that's where we go next." Before leaving, she turned to Officer Bokai. "Thank you. If there's any update, I'll ring you immediately," he promised. Outside, morning traffic hummed. As they crossed the drop-off lane, Mensa murmured, "Fair warning, if Julius faked his death, someone, maybe Kweku, helped. People who fake deaths don't like loose ends." Amara's jaw hardened. "I was never a loose end. I was his reason." Layla unlocked her car. "Reason or shield? Either way, we get answers." Hours later they arrived in Ada Foa, where the Volta River kisses the Atlantic. The air smelled of salt and gardenias. Bloom and Tide sat on a sun-washed corner, shutters painted sea green. Through the window, bouquets of hibiscus and baby's breath stood like silent witnesses. Amara's pulse hammered as she stepped inside. A brass bell chimed. Avery looked up from tying ribbon around a bouquet, surprise flickering into guarded calm. Up close, she was striking, warm brown skin, steady gaze, but there was a shadow of exhaustion in her eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. Amara's voice wavered. "Actually, I was hoping you could help me." Avery's gaze dropped to the business card Amara slid across the counter, a still from the CCTV, Julius, baby Kai, Avery herself. Avery's fingers tensed around the ribbon. "I need to know who Liam really is," Amara said, forcing steadiness. "Because I loved him long before he walked into this shop." The silence stretched, thick as honey. Avery's throat moved. She gestured to a framed photo on the wall behind the register, Julius, wearing the same safari jacket, laughing beside Avery and baby Kai. Below it, a plaque read, "In gratitude to Liam, the man who saved us." Avery's voice was a whisper. "He said he had no past, only a future with us. If you know differently, sit. We need to talk." Amara's knees trembled as she took a seat at a corner table, Layla and Mensa flanking her. Outside, Gulls screamed and waves crashed, a soundtrack to the lives about to collide. In that fragile moment, 5 tangled destinies poised on the brink of revelation, and Amara realized the search for Julius was no longer about unearthing a ghost. It was about confronting the living man who had rewritten all their lives, and deciding whose truth would survive the telling. Cedar dust swirled in slanted attic light as Amara and Layla crouched beside the scorched leather journal, pages fanning like injured wings. Julius's handwriting, smooth, deliberate, snaked between charred margins, but many sections were bubbled black, unreadable. Layla snapped photos for later enhancement. "Look here," she murmured, pointing to a half-burned paragraph. Met with K again, pressure rising. "If I don't pay, he'll go after Amara. Must vanish. Need diversion big enough to convince the world I'm gone." "K," Amara whispered. "Kweku." Layla turned another page and found a rough map of the Gulf Coast, dotted with X's and one bold circle around Ada Foa. Beneath it, Julius had scrawled, "Backup plan, safe house plus new ID." Next, a skinny envelope slipped from the gutter. Inside, a SIM card fused to a plastic business card stamped Allegro Marina, Takoradi. "Mensa needs this," Layla said, pocketing the card. "He can clone the SIM, maybe retrieve deleted data." But Amara's gaze was fixed on a final entry dated May 14, 2022, 2 days before the accident. "If things turn, set the fire. Burn the evidence. The journal must disappear with the boat." She hugged the journal to her chest. "He tried to destroy it, to protect me." Layla squeezed her shoulder. "Or protect himself. Either way, the answers are in here, and we're not letting them smolder a second time." Detective Mensa's study felt more like a war room now, maps pinned to corkboards, color-coded threads linking photos of Julius, Avery, Kweku, and a handful of nameless port workers. The old investigator welcomed them with a grave nod. Amara slid the SIM card across the desk. From Julius's journal. Mensa slotted it into a forensic reader wired to his laptop. Lines of hexadecimal flickered, then resolved into call logs, multiple late-night connections to a burner labeled K. Mensa clicked an audio icon, silence, then Julius's hushed voice. "The money will be wired tonight, but you stay away from Amara. You promised." Click. Layla's jaw clenched. Extortion. Mensa extracted GPS metadata from one call and projected a satellite image of a rundown warehouse off Takoradi's docks. Kweku's turf. He ran money laundering through fishing vessels until Interpol froze his accounts. Amara glared at the image, anger prickling beneath her skin. If Kweku threatened Julius, why fake a death that kept me in danger anyway? Applies the old hostage paradox, Mensa mused. Take yourself off the board so the hostage, you, loses value. Kweku can't squeeze an invisible man. Layla folded her arms. Unless Julius kept paying from the shadows. Mensa typed, frowning. Looks like large cash withdrawals from a Julius-linked trust continue monthly, converted to crypto, funneled to shell companies. My guess, Kweku hasn't let go. Amara pressed trembling hands to her lips. The fear she'd buried for 3 years resurfaced, raw and immediate. Then Julius is still under his thumb, and so am I. Mensa shut the laptop. Which means we dig faster. Next clue? Layla produced the Marina card. Mensa's eyes lit. Allegro Marina houses charter crews. We'll question the harbor master, see who rented speedboats the week of the accident. He reached for his cane. Gear up, ladies. Time to rattle some cages. Adafoa's narrow lanes bustled with fishermen mending nets and tourists hunting beach bars, but Blumentide was a world apart, a cool oasis perfumed with jasmine. Inside, Avery poured tea for Amara beneath the watchful gaze of Mensa and Layla. Kai's napping, Avery said quietly. I don't want him hearing secrets. She produced Julius's passport, only the name read Liam Adedivo. The photo, 5 months after the accident, showed him with bandaged forehead. He wandered into a clinic near Sassandra, Ivory Coast. No ID, concussed, half-starved. I volunteered there. When he woke, he couldn't remember anything. Amara's heart twisted. So he told you nothing of me? Our life? Avery's eyes shimmered. Nothing. We built a new life. She swallowed. 3 months ago his memory began flickering back. Nightmares, names, Amara, Kweku. He grew fearful. Talked about finishing unfinished business at sea, about a baby bracelet. Layla leaned forward. The bracelet, Kai J. The J is Julius? Avery nodded. He said it would protect our son, mark him as innocent should anything happen. Mensa interjected, did Julius ever contact a man named Kweku? Avery frowned. He kept a hidden phone. There were tense calls, he'd step outside, pace. After, he'd stare at Kai like he was counting blessings. Mensa showed her the warehouse photo. Avery's lips thinned. That's where his chartered boat launched 2 weeks ago. He claimed he had to settle a debt once and for all. Amara felt dizziness rush her. He was trying to end Kweku's hold. Avery reached across the table, fingers trembling. I deserve the truth as much as you. Let's stop Kweku before Julius destroys himself. Outside, an infant's wail drifted from the back room. Avery rose, but paused. You want to meet your namesake? Amara's breath fluttered. Kai Amara Julius, she guessed. Avery smiled sadly. Close, Kai Akoto Julius. Akoto means hunter. Julius said his son would need courage. Amara's eyes filled. He already has it. And he has us. Across the shop, Mensa dialed Bokai. I need a warrant for Takarati Warehouse B-17 and satellite surveillance on any vessel registered to Kwekunsaya. He met Amara's gaze. The net tightens tonight. Evening storm stormed Takarati's harbor as Mensa, Layla, Amara, and Avery, baby Kai bundled tight, slipped past shuttered market stalls. The warehouse loomed empty, rust bleeding down corrugated walls. Inside, the stench of fish oil mingled with diesel. Mensa's flashlight swept over crates stenciled with N-Group exports. He pried one open. Inside, bundles of Sadie notes vacuum-sealed, alongside fake passports bearing Julius's photo with different aliases. Amara's pulse pounded. Liam. Bismarck. Kojo. He was ready to run any time. Layla's phone pinged. The smartwatch she'd synced earlier had synced to Julius's missing Garmin. GPS coordinates blinked on a map overlay, latitude, 4.893 degrees north, longitude, 1.755 degrees west, just offshore. The timestamp, 32 minutes ago. He's on the water, Layla said. Heading southwest, speed indicates a small craft. Mensa keyed his radio to the marine unit. Intercept call sign Romeo Zulu 4, course 210, 20 knots. Thunder cracked overhead. Avery clutched Kai. If Kweku's with him. A metallic clatter echoed from the mezzanine. Flashlights wheeled up, a gaunt man in a windbreaker sprinted across the catwalk. Mensa shouted, freeze! The man vaulted a railing, landing hard, scrambling toward a side exit. Layla gave chase, Amara at her heels. Rain pummeled them as they burst onto a pier. The fugitive slipped, crashed into shipping pallets. Layla tackled him, wrenching his arm. Under the hiss of downpour she rasped, tell me where Kweku is. Through split lips, the man spat seawater. Gone, took the black rib boat. Meeting the ghost. The ghost? Amara demanded. You're dead, man, he sneered. Police sirens wailed down the quay, officers cuffed the man. Mensa limped up, soaked. Coastal radar picked up the rib, heading toward the estuary. Patrol is in pursuit. Amara stared across the black water. Lightning forked, briefly illuminating a darting silhouette of a speedboat. Hold on, Julius, she thought. We're coming. Back at Mensa's SUV, Avery rocked a fussing Kai as the detective sifted the fugitive's confiscated phone. A single unsent audio file glowed on screen. Mensa tapped play. Julius's voice, frantic over engine noise, filled the car speakers. Amara, if you ever hear this, it means I failed. Kweku forced my hand. He has evidence that can ruin everyone, including you. I'm meeting him on the water to end it. If I don't return, protect Kai. Tell him I loved him, and I loved you first. Look in the lighthouse vault. Password is the date we met. Amara's sob cracked open. Avery reached over, squeezing her hand. Grief equaled them now. Mensa spoke into his radio. All units, converge on Ada Lighthouse. Possible hostage site. Within an hour they reached the crumbling colonial tower, waves battering its base. Police boats formed a cordon offshore, searchlights skimming foam. Mensa directed tactical officers inside while Amara, Layla, and Avery waited under the beam's rotating glare. From the tower's door, officers emerged with a battered Julius, bleeding from a cut brow but alive. His wrists were zip-tied, an officer sliced them free. Amara gasped as he staggered toward her, eyes wide with disbelief and longing. Sunshine, his voice splintered. She pressed trembling fingers to his cheek, then slapped him, once, not hard, just real. Tears streamed down both faces. Immediately she pulled him into a fierce embrace, sobbing into his shoulder. Avery stepped forward, Kai in her arms. Julius's gaze fell on his son, wonder broke across his exhausted face. My little hunter, he whispered. But the reunion fractured when officers dragged out Kweku, wrists bound, fury smoldering in his eyes. As he passed, he snarled at Julius, a debt never dies. Julius straightened despite the handcuffs. It does tonight. Later, inside a makeshift command tent, Mensa set Julius's statement recorder rolling. Julius detailed everything, how Kweku laundered cartel money, blackmailed him after Julius stumbled on secret ledgers at their joint venture. The staged boat explosion was Julius's idea, funded by stolen cartel cash, to fake his death and shield Amara. But a rogue wave had capsized the decoy vessel prematurely. Julius drifted, injured, to Ivory Coast. Amnesia kept him safe until fragments returned, along with Kweku, who tracked the missing money. Julius's payoff shipments only delayed harm. His last-ditch plan, meet Kweku on the water, hand over final crypto keys, and vanish forever, alone. Amara's voice was raw. You would leave all of us broken again? Julius lowered his head. I thought preserving your life was worth sacrificing our future. Avery spoke gently. But a life shaped by lies isn't living, Julius. Kai fussed. Julius reached for him. Amara noticed how his hands shook. She touched his arm. We decide what happens next, together. No more ghosts. Mensa looked between them. Kweku will face money laundering, extortion, attempted murder, plenty to keep him behind bars. Restitution will recover stolen funds. The lighthouse vault? Guided by Julius, officers retrieved a watertight case from a hidden alcove, ledgers, USB drives, proof of Kweku's network, enough to dismantle his empire. Dawn's first blush crept up the horizon. On the beach below, paramedics stitched Julius's brow. Amara stood beside him, fingers woven with his, Avery at his other side, Kai dozing against Julius's chest. Layla snapped a photo, not of evidence but of family in its strangest, truest bloom. She tucked the phone away, a private keepsake. The sky warmed coral, gulls wheeled overhead, and for the first time in years, Amara felt the future arrive, not as a haunting, but as an open door. Whatever decision awaited, reconciliation, release, or something between, would be hers to make in daylight, no longer chasing shadows. The lighthouse siege ended at dawn, yet by mid-afternoon Avery and baby Kai were nowhere to be found. One moment Avery had been giving a statement to a junior officer, the next, the makeshift interview room was empty except for a discarded baby bottle rolling in slow circles on the plywood floor. Detective Mensa's curses rattled the command tent. Protective custody lasts only as long as the witness stays put. Julius blanched. She thinks she's shielding Kai from the circus. Or she thinks you need space with Amara, Layla offered drily. Amara squeezed the bridge of her nose. 12 hours ago the world had finally felt solid, now it rippled again. Can you track her phone? Mensa held up a stingray pouch already humming. Ping puts her on the Nsawamapedwa highway, heading north at speed. Toward the Cocoa Belt, Layla muttered. Back roads, plenty of homestays, easy to vanish. Julius paced. Avery's been running since the clinic in Ivory Coast. Hiding is muscle memory. Then we speak her language, Amara said. She pointed to a wall map. She'll need supplies, formula, diapers. The only 24-hour mart between here and Kanongo is in Asante Akim. Mensa's eyes lit. We stake it out. 2 cars, one visible, one ghosting. Night cloaked the mountain pass in velvet black when they reached the fluorescent oasis of Kwame's Quick Mart. Inside, Julius scanned aisles like a bloodhound until his gaze snagged on a familiar patterned wrap cradling a sleeping Kai. Avery froze mid-step, panic leaping to her face. Avery, please. Julius's voice broke across the checkout hum. No more running. Kai deserves roots, not footprints. Shoppers turned, sensing the electric tension. Avery pivoted toward the exit, but Amara stepped into her path, palms raised. This isn't an ambush. It's a lifeline. Avery's shoulders sagged. I heard sirens. Press vans. I grew up dodging debt collectors. Chaos means danger. Chaos can also mean a new beginning, Amara said gently. Let's write it together. Outside, Mensa's sedan idled. Avery strapped Kai into a borrowed car seat and slipped in beside Julius without a word. Thunderheads crowded the moon, but in the back seat Kai sighed in baby dreams, proof that peace was possible if the adults could find it. Mensa loaned them his bungalow on the outskirts of Kumasi, 2 bedrooms, 1 rickety veranda, and enough privacy for the hardest conversation of their lives. Cicadas sang as Avery laid Kai in a travel cot. When she closed the bedroom door, Julius and Amara were waiting at the kitchen table, a single bulb throwing shadows like interrogators' lamps. Avery folded her arms. Say it, whatever judgment you've rehearsed. Julius swallowed. There is no script for hurting 2 women I love. Nice poetry, Avery snapped. But for 3 years you were my world. Then your first life arrived and everything cracked. Amara steadied her voice. I'm not here to cut you out. I'm here to cut the lies out. Silence thickened until Julius exhaled. I remember the clinic, waking up blank, terrified. You fed me, named me, loved me before I even liked myself. I never meant for my past to steal your future. Avery's eyes glassed. You promised the sea had washed it all away. I was wrong. Memory is a tide, it returns. Amara slid a folder across the table. Kweku is in custody. This affidavit from the Attorney General guarantees you and Kai witness protection, relocation if you choose. No more fugitives. Avery scanned the paper, her composure fissuring. I don't need relocation. I need the truth. So Julius told it, the money laundering, the extortion, the staged explosion, how amnesia had been mercy and curse, how a glimpse of Kai's face every morning reminded him that new love could coexist with old vows. When he finished, Avery covered her face. Amara reached to touch her wrist but hesitated, 2 women standing on opposite sides of the same earthquake. Finally Avery lowered her hands. I'm angry, but mostly I'm tired of secrets. If we're to protect Kai, we do it as a team, no hierarchies. Julius's shoulders sagged in relief. Amara nodded. Team Kai. A tentative, fragile truce settled, as the veranda light attracted moths that battered the screen, drawn, like them, to whatever warmth survived the night. Morning brought the aroma of Milo and plantain pancakes, and Avery's quiet confession. She produced a small metal box she'd hidden in Kai's diaper bag, Julius's old signet ring, a USB stick, and a legal envelope. "I found these under our mattress 2 weeks ago," she said. "Didn't trust anyone enough to open them." Layla, freshly arrived with Mensa, slipped on latex gloves and inserted the USB. An encrypted ledger blossomed on the laptop, wire transfers linking N-Group exports to an entity called Obaton Insurance Beneficiary Trust. The signature on each withdrawal? Rochelle Owusu-Boateng, Julius's estranged older sister. Julius's eyes widened. "Rochelle handled my policies years ago." Amara frowned. "You told me she'd moved to Canada." "I thought so." Layla clicked the legal envelope open, a notarized claim form declaring Julius dead and transferring the 3 million Ghanaian cedis life insurance payout to Rochelle, and a second signatory, Mensa read, brows knitting. "Kweku Nsaya." Tension snapped like a snare drum. Avery whispered, "They cashed in on your death." Maybe Kweku's leverage wasn't just laundering, he and Rochelle profiteered from the tragedy. Amara's stomach churned. "She let me drown in grief while she pocketed blood money." Mensa's gaze sharpened. "With this evidence we can charge Rochelle with fraud, conspiracy, and aiding organized crime. But we need her in Ghana." Layla's fingers flew across her phone. Her last public post geotagged Accra Mall, 3 days ago. "She's not in Canada, she's right under our nose." Julius's jaw set. Then the next confrontation is family. Before facing Rochelle, Mensa insisted on closing 2 loose ends, paternity proof for insurance court admissibility, and a toxicology screen to determine if Julius's memory loss was natural or induced. At Kamfo Anakai Teaching Hospital, doctors drew blood from Julius and the drowsy Kai while Avery hummed lullabies. A pediatric geneticist arrived with results by afternoon, probability of paternity 99.97%. Julius's knees nearly buckled, Kai gurgled as if pleased by the science. Avery smiled, a small victory lighting the room. Then toxicology, traces of scopolamine and diazepam still lingering in Julius's hair samples, consistent with a cocktail used to induce confusion and compliance. The administration window matched the days before and after the supposed accident. "Someone drugged you," Amara breathed. "Kweku," Julius guessed. "Make me pliable, then blast the boat." "Or Rochelle," Layla murmured, so the insurance policy looked legitimate. In the hallway, Julius buried his face in his hands. "Every memory I lost was stolen, not washed away." Amara crouched beside him. "Then let's steal them back, one confession at a time." Rochelle's penthouse overlooked Accra's Marina Mall, chrome and glass reflecting a burnished sunset. Mensa, Layla, and a fraud unit task force positioned themselves in the lobby while Julius, Amara, and Avery rode the elevator, hearts hammering against mirrored walls. The door slid open to a living room dripping with illicit luxury, designer bags, imported art, and on a marble coffee table, a fresh opened bottle of Veuve. Rochelle, elegant in a silk jumpsuit, turned, champagne flute midair. The glass shattered when she saw Julius. "Impossible," she hissed. "You're dead." Julius stepped forward, voice low. "Funny, you said the same at my memorial." Rochelle's gaze flicked toward a hallway, escape calculating. Avery blocked the route, Kai on her hip like a shield of innocence. Amara placed the signed claim form on the table. "Your handwriting aged well." Rochelle's facade crumbled. "Kweku promised no one would get hurt, except maybe you," she spat at Amara. "He said Julius was desperate for an out." "He fed your greed," Julius replied. "You fed his power. And you both left a baby collateral." Sirens wailed below. Mensa's gravelly voice boomed from the doorway, "Rochelle Owusu-Boateng, you're under arrest for fraud and conspiracy to commit murder." Officers cuffed her before she finished cursing. As she was led away, Rochelle hurled a final barb, "The money's gone, you'll never trace it." Layla stepped forward, waving the USB. Gone where? Cayman account Obaden? Already frozen. Rochelle's shoulders slumped, designer armor failing her. Back at Mensa's bungalow, Julius downloaded years of stolen memories from old journals, police files, and Kai's laughter. Amara brewed coffee while Avery updated witness protection liaisons. They were not a conventional family, yet every bond in the room felt forged in a hotter fire than blood. Julius cleared his throat. One more debt. He opened a battered lockbox and produced a cashier's check made out to Amara Adubansu, the exact amount of the insurance policy. Interest deducted from my portion of purgatory. Amara shook her head, tears shining. Money won't fix 3 years of graveside nights. He stepped closer. Then named the price. Her answer was a whisper. Honesty. And time to decide if love resurrected is still love at all. Avery set Kai on the carpet, the toddler toddled between Julius and Amara, oblivious ambassador. Laughing through tears, they both reached down, 2 hands, 1 child, the single undeniable truth that bound past and present. Outside, a harmattan wind swept the veranda, carrying away the last grains of ash from Julius's burnt journal. The pages had tried to vanish, but stories, like people, have a stubborn will to live. And this story, unfinished, untidy, unforgettable, had finally turned its own page. 2 weeks after Rochelle's arrest, Amara sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, the late afternoon sun pooling across a final box of Julius's belongings. She had avoided this carton, labeled miscellaneous papers, like it was cursed, but closure demanded courage. Inside, beneath ticket stubs and faded photographs, lay a padded courier envelope dated 3 days before the boating disaster. Tearing it open, she found 20 identical envelopes, each addressed, in Julius's unmistakable hand, to Amara Owusu-Boateng, followed by future dates, from May 2023 through May 2043, her next 20 birthdays. Layla, hovering by the doorway, sucked in a breath. Time release letters. Amara opened the first. Sunshine. If you're reading this, it means Plan A failed and Plan B cost me everything except the chance to keep loving you in secret. Some debts follow a man beyond the grave. Forgive the silence, I traded our present for your future. Tears slid down Amara's cheeks. Each letter ended with the same postscript, if ever the tide turns, light the candle in the widow's walk. She had never owned a widow's walk, but Julius's childhood home did, a narrow-railed platform atop a shuttered mansion on Cape Coast's cliffs. Layla's eyes shone. A signal. He planted breadcrumbs even he might not remember. Amara phoned Mensa. Within the hour they were on the coastal road, Julius at the wheel of a borrowed pickup, Avery and Kai asleep in the back. Wind whipped Amara's braids as the mansion came into view, its weather-faded facade crowned by the tiny lookout. Inside, they climbed creaking stairs to an attic ladder. On the widow's walk, tucked beneath a loose floorboard, Julius uncovered a waterproof box. Inside, photographs of Kweku with a clean-cut stranger shaking hands over duffel bags of cash, plus shipping manifests stamped to Ken Global Logistics, a freight company never before linked to the laundering ring. Julius's voice tremored. That's Kweku's silent partner. Mensa squinted. Name on the manifests, Kofi Asare, alias the broker. Cartel middlemen Interpol's hunted for a decade. Perhaps he financed the fake death scheme, not just Kweku. The sunset bled red over the water. Amara clutched Julius's hand. So the ghost still has a heartbeat, and he thinks we won't chase him. Records traced to Ken Global's headquarters to Tima Harbor, but the building was a shell company's mirage. Mensa, working his CID contacts, learned that Asare would attend an exclusive charity gala in Accra under yet another alias, posing as a cocoa export magnate. Layla scribbled plans on a whiteboard. We need eyes inside and leverage that forces him to talk before he slips back into the fog. Avery cleared her throat. He traffics influence, he won't fear police, but he does fear publicity. What if the gala livestream accidentally features him, while we drop those photos in the chat feed? Julius arched an eyebrow. Turn the spotlight he hides behind into an interrogation lamp. Mensa approved. I'll arrange a discreet arrest warrant triggered by probable cause. We bait him with cameras, then hook him legally. Gala night, Amara wore a crimson gown, Julius, a charcoal tux, Avery blended in as event photographer, camera streaming to Layla's laptop in a surveillance van. Mensa, cane tapping, posed as grumbling security. Asare, silver-templed, immaculately tailored, worked the crowd. At 9:12 p.m., Avery's lens captured his face. Layla hit broadcast. Over 1,000 online viewers watched a split screen, gala glitz on one side, Kweku Asare cash duffel photos on the other, hashtag broker exposed igniting. Murmurs surged through the ballroom as guests checked phones. Asare's composure cracked, sweat beaded his brow. He moved to exit, but Julius intercepted. Leaving so soon, broker? Julius said, voice like flint. Asare's eyes narrowed. Dead men should stay buried. Mensa appeared with plainclothes officers. Kofi Asare, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and attempted murder. Handcuffs clicked. Cameras flashed. The broker's empire of shadows evaporated under LED glare. Kweku, sensing his network's collapse from inside jail, petitioned for a plea bargain, full confession in exchange for leniency. Mensa agreed to a recorded deposition. Amara insisted on attending. The interrogation room was stark, Kweku in chains, Julius opposite, Amara and Avery behind mirrored glass. Kweku's smirk curled. Ah, the resurrected groom and his harem. Julius's knuckles whitened, but he held steady. Talk. Kweku detailed the origin, Rochelle's resentment at Julius's success, Asare's need for a clean channel to wash cartel funds. Rochelle provided the insurance policies, Asare bankrolled the staged accident, Kweku executed logistics for a cut. Julius's refusal to launder money triggered the blackmail that led to his disappearance. And the drugs? Mensa pressed. Administered the night before the voyage. Easy with a celebratory drink, Kweku said, shrugging. Amnesia was convenient. When asked about future threats, Kweku laughed. Remove me, Asare, Rochelle, you still have the cartel madre. They have longer memories than love letters. The room chilled. Mensa terminated the session, but as guards escorted Kweku out, he hissed at Amara, your fairy tale ending? One phone call and poof, another funeral. Outside, Amara exhaled shakily. Julius took her hand. He's bluffing. But Mensa's grave face said otherwise. Cartel revenge is generational. Layla produced a document, then we preempt. Witness relocation visas cleared for all of us, Canada or New Zealand. Clean slates. Avery's eyes welled. Running again? Julius looked at Kai toddling along the corridor tiles. Maybe we choose places, not for escape, but for rebirth. Amara touched his arm. But first, we tell the world our story on our terms, bury threats under truth. A month later, an exclusive primetime documentary aired, Resurrected, the Julius Owusu boating conspiracy. Filmed by an independent crew, it featured Amara, Julius, Avery, and Mensa sitting together, no edits, no dramatizations, just raw testimony. Viewers watched Julius apologize publicly to both women, explaining how fear and coercion warped his choices. Avery recounted her love story with a man who had no name, while Amara described 3 years of grief carved into nightly rituals at an empty graveside. Ratings shattered records, social media erupted, some applauding unconditional forgiveness, others condemning Julius's double life. Yet the overwhelming narrative became one of resilience and blended family. Donations poured into a new nonprofit, Kai's Lighthouse Foundation, dedicated to helping families caught in criminal crossfire. Backroom chatter suggested the cartel found the glare too hot, resources shifted elsewhere. Mensa's contacts confirmed no active contracts on any of them. Light, once again, scattered shadows. But the most difficult conversation remained private. In their rented beachfront cottage, bags half-packed for Auckland, Amara and Julius sat under a ceiling fan's slow rotation. I love you, Julius said, voice husky. But love demands choice, not obligation. If you can't choose me now, I'll accept that. Amara studied their intertwined hands. You once swapped a lifetime for my safety. I won't trade my peace just to stitch back the old tapestry. Yet, part of me still sees us in every sunrise. A gentle knock. Avery entered with Kai, who toddled straight to Amara, squealing "Mama," a title he used interchangeably for both women. Tears sprang to Amara's eyes. She lifted him, kissing his curls. She met Julius's gaze. Maybe love isn't a straight line, it's a harbor we sail in and out of. For now, let's anchor side by side, raise this child, and see where tides carry us. He nodded, relief and sorrow mingling. Side by side. The dawn of departure arrived, orange surf, gulls wheeling. 2 taxis idled, one for Julius and Avery to the international terminal, another for Amara and Layla, who would remain in Ghana to oversee Kai's lighthouse until visas cleared. Suitcases thudded into trunks. Julius secured Kai in a car seat, then turned to Amara across the sandy drive. They had rehearsed goodbyes, but words felt flimsy. He pressed a sealed envelope into her hand. Open when you're ready. She tucked it into her journal. Take care of our hunter. Avery hugged Amara, whispering, "Thank you for choosing grace." As engines started, Kai burst into tears, reaching for Amara. Instinct overruled plans. She unbuckled, climbed into Julius's taxi, settling Kai on her lap. Julius blinked. Amara? She smiled through tears. Side by side starts now, not in 6 months. She called to Layla, "I'll meet you in Accra next week, hold the fort." Layla gave a thumbs up, eyes shining. Go make a family messy and magnificent. The taxis pulled away, kicking up dust that caught the sunrise like glitter. Amara looked at Julius, Avery, and a sniffly Kai squeezed between them. We're unconventional, she said, kissing the child's cheek. But we're also unstoppable. Hours later, from the airplane window, Amara watched Ghana's coastline recede, golden beaches melting into blue infinity. She opened Julius's envelope. Inside was a single photo, the 3 of them standing by the lighthouse ruins, Kai on Julius's shoulders, Amara and Avery laughing under wind-whipped hair. On the back, Julius had written, "No more ghosts, only light. Whatever course we plot, this is our true north." Amara pressed the picture to her heart. The jet engines roared, lifting them toward new skies where identities could be rebuilt not on lies or loss, but on deliberate, daily truth. As clouds swallowed the horizon, she exhaled, not in farewell, but in fierce welcome of everything ahead, reparations, rediscovery, and the radical choice to keep loving in spite of wreckage. She glanced at Julius, he squeezed her hand. Avery leaned across Kai, linking all 3. 3 years ago, a funeral had ended Amara's world. Now, a flight carried her into a story still gloriously unfinished, a testament that sometimes the most viral twist isn't the return of the dead, but the rebirth of the living who refuse to surrender to tragedy. The end.